Ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to use Adobe Photoshop to create a canvas for images to be later placed in InDesign. For this exercise, we are working on a tri-fold, that is a 3-piece menu. You are designing either the front, back, inside cover, depending on the layout you choose. Now, we can use Photoshop to create a layout of images that we can then import into Adobe InDesign to arrange and place text. You are completely welcome to take a template file as such and create a blank white layer. You can turn off all of your guides, templates, and bleed files. Make yourself a new white layer. Create a selection of images, shapes, pictures, whatever you want, whatever your little heart's desire for your project in Photoshop. Now, if you do not have your guides on, which would be a mistake, you will not know where your folds, margins, or bleeds are. Make a white layer to cover this, or just turn your background off. I have told you before, I don't like working on a checkerboard. I think it's hard to see. So, pretend that the circles, ovals, rectangles, and triangles are menu options, foods, desserts, and that they are arranged accordingly on your page. You have two options. You can create single picture files of your objects to be placed in InDesign individually, or you can create, as you see here, a complete canvas that if you allow yourself to see your margins and your folds, you could place things accordingly. Now, looking at my shape placement, I want you to see that I have some things that are kissing or tangent, touching, and not well balanced. But they are all connected and together here in Photoshop. Is this good or is this bad? It's neither. It's fine. I am going to show you how to use this as a multiple picture layout that you can separately adjust in InDesign. Now, like I said, we don't want to save our template file or our image file with all of our mechanical information because that's going to be then visible. So we turn them off and now we save this file. Save as, make sure it is a Photoshop file, and we are going to call it something relative to the project. I am going to call this one Menu Design Shapes for Placement. Save. I'm going to replace, because I already have this saved once, just so you know. And that's all we have to do, guys, from the Photoshop side. Make sure it is in CMYK for printing. Make sure you are starting off with a 300 dpi high resolution image of accurate size. We are now going to minimize and move to InDesign. Now I already have in InDesign my template file open. We have our layers. I'm going to bring out so you can see. As we have dotted fold lines, template information, background. They're locked They're there not to be disturbed. As we have spoken in the past, we need to see the Pages menu because look at what we have. We have page 1 and page 2. Interesting. 2 different layouts. Maybe this is a variable template file. I want to use the 3-piece or trifold template, so I am going to dispose of the first one, click OK, and now I have 1 page. But this is a front and a back page menu. So what do I do next? I'm going to drag the page to the menu, plus menu, and create a new page, just like you'd create a new layer. Now we have page 1, page 2. They're laying on top of each other. This is also incorrect for a double-sided menu. You have to make sure under your file menu that you go to Document Setup and make it a facing pages menu, which means printing on the front and the back. And now look at the spine or hinge that shows you page 1, page 2. We're going to work with page 1, guys. Make it active, move this out of your way because you do not need to see it separately. I like to combine my menus because they take up a lot of space. I keep my layers separately, and I try to keep as much visual room on my page as possible. Maximize your desktop. Remember, we are in InDesign. Make sure you are working on the appropriate page. Make sure you can see your layers. Do not lose them because we don't want to touch our template information. We are going to make a new layer. We are going to put it under our fold so we don't lose those dimensions. Click on layer 3 to make sure it's active. Again, view, fit page and window. So now you can see everything clearly. You must see your bleed. Now, guys, big point. Remember, InDesign is a placement program. We need to bring our Photoshop files into the project and place them. We are going to draw a rectangle marquee from bleed to bleed because we drew a full-size template. We are going to hit Command D on our keyboard. Remember, Command D or Edit Place. Where did my place go? Why can I not find my place? Command D works. Clicking through, there's my layout. Open. And now I have it pasted in. If I move it, you can see it's white. And it's not the full size of my page. Something must have went wrong in Photoshop. That's okay. We do not need to go back. I zoomed out. I can see my page. My box is bigger. I need to bring it down to the edge of the box or the canvas and make sure it is appropriately sized. And bring it back and get it into the bleed corner. I want you to see that. I have placed this. Look, there is my bleed. I moved my object to it. Now, if I zoom out a touch, you'll see I'm not fitting. So I made a mistake in Photoshop. Maybe I did it on purpose so I could teach you guys a lesson. Now, this is the bounding box. This is what holds the box. It is the first arrow selection tool. You also have the direct selection tool, which selects deselect the image in the box. Look, you can move the image in the box independently of the main frame. We don't want to do that. We want it centered and full size. We are going to move it into position to fill the page. Whoops, wrong tool. Even Mr. Anderson does it. Select, move into place, and then Shift, End Command. Remember, Shift, End Command. This is going to keep it proportional. Holding Command means you change the shape or image in the box. Also, open it to the bleed all the way. There we go. Now there's something wrong. We're not completing the page. So we did something wrong. So we either have to go back to Photoshop and we have to redo our layout, or we have another trick up our sleeve. And that is the whole point of this lesson. Don't forget, this is an independent box. Let me zoom out a little bit so you can see. Don't do that. There's the box. I can make the box bigger, and it doesn't change the shape. You don't want to do that. You don't want these holes. They could get you in trouble. You should have a box the size of your image. But we realize that our image is smaller than our canvas in InDesign. So we're going to do something a little different. We're going to make the box smaller. Well, let's do this first. Copy, paste. Let's keep this off to the side. Now I can't go off the overall canvas. Here it is here. Here's a copy of it. Because I want you to always refer back to this full image. Look at this. I can actually take this and shrink down the box, the binding box, the overall direct selection tool, and place my yellow shape. Exactly where I wanted it. Now I can zoom in. I can also just do the obvious, fit page and window. I want to make sure I don't have a stroke on, because I don't want a stroke on this. I want it clean. There is our clean shape. If I move this to the outside, so I create a bleed, which you have to have, guys. You have to have this image go past if it is intended to. Something's wrong here. I don't want a piece of my menu going off of the trim. I don't want it to go past my margin. So I did something wrong in Photoshop. We can fix this in InDesign by just moving the box in. And now we are right on our margin. If we wanted our top to be right on our margin, all we have to do is lower the top of the box. Don't cut your image and bring it up. So we just took a mistake. We took a bad layout and we fixed it. We moved the box around the individual shapes in an image. Now, you guys should all be looking at this and going, why are you crossing the dotted fold lines? That's going to look funny. You're right. It's kissing. Now, if I select the shape, Shift, Command or press on the keyboard, drag it open and make it big, that's okay because that's not kissing or tension creating on that fold line. But we also don't want a menu all about this big yellow circle. So we're going to shrink it down. And we're going to go with, we want it to be smaller than our margin. So we're going to make it come out and be even with our margins. So we have 1/4 of an inch to the left, 1/4 of an inch from the margin at the top, 1/4 of an inch also on the inside. Now I'm going to zoom out. All this was from this image. It's still that image. Watch. Click here. There's my big image. Click here. Here is my shrunken down shape to shape image. Now watch. Command C is copy. Command V is paste. You're saying, Mr. Anderson, it's the same thing, but open the box. There's the rest of my shapes. So guess what? Move the box. Move the box. And you can eliminate the problems. And now you have just a free-floating shape. We need to zoom in because we have a little bit of an issue here. We have a little bit of our green coming in, so we need to try to hide that as best we can. Can we get it out? Oh, we can just get it out. Good job. Zoom out. There we were. This is supposed to be centered perfectly. It's not. So what we're going to do is make this right to the shape. Because now we can, look, boom, let's zoom in. We can click and move, and it'll show us their center, and then it'll also do it vertically. There's the vertical. There it clicks. There it clicks. It's not easy to get it to click. There we go. And then we're dead center. View fit on screen. Now that's centered. It's not causing problems with our margins. Copy. Select first. Command copy. Command V. Here we are. Another copy. Before I open the box to show you the other shapes, you could also switch from the direct selection tool, the selection tool to the direct selection tool, deselect, reselect, and now you can see the rest of your canvas that's hidden. But watch, when you move the shape across, it disappears and it reveals the image you might want. To make it simple, deselect, grab your direct selection tool, click on the box again, change the box, make the box the size of your rectangle. Move the shape, open the box, there it is, and there's your rectangle. And now we see we cross our folds. Not good. We are going to press Shift and Command, and we are going to shrink this down to be within the margins, just like we did with our yellow shape. We are going to move it to the top and try to recreate our layout, but more balanced. And then we're going to say to ourselves, we're missing a shape. We could copy any one of these. But guess what? It's the last thing that you pasted, so Command V gives you another one. Again, direct selection moves the box. Deselect, grab the direct selection tool, click on your image, and you'll see it shows what's missing behind the canvas. Move, oh, there's your triangle. Now, deselect, go back to the overall selection tool, activate your bounding box, and open it up. And there's your whole triangle. I like to make my boxes small and to the shape so that we don't see any confusion. Now in my layout, we will zoom out. We are now matching the layout, but it's individual. Don't forget this, everything's connected. That is the whole Photoshop canvas. Here, look. You're moving, whoops, look what I did. I messed it up by not being careful. Deselect, reselect, make sure it is the overall selection tool, but we can do whatever we want now. We can say to ourselves by holding Shift and Command, we want this to be as long as the page and centered. We can say, you know what, I changed my mind. I want this centered. And look, it snaps right to it. We can say to ourselves, I want to change my triangle. Maybe Shift Command a little bit smaller so I'm not touching my margins, and maybe I want to center that. Maybe I decide I don't want this. Click Delete. So look what we've got, ladies and gentlemen. On the left, we have a Photoshop image. We have a canvas that we created with locked in art that we broke to individual pieces. Look at the gap by changing the bounding box. We now have 1, 2, 3 separate boxes, but we have more control to edit. Don't forget, every time you change this shape, say I want that triangle bigger. Well, in this layout, everything gets bigger. That's not going to work, guys. So this is how we design our images in Photoshop and we bring them into InDesign. We can bring them in as complete canvases, and then we can break down the shapes into individual blocks and move them around. Now that's not going to work if it's a photograph with image going left to right, top to bottom. This is only going to work if you paint on a white canvas or a transparent canvas. But you can do that because what's nice about this is it's one file. If you did these all individually, you'd have 4 files to manage. So it is up to you how you manage your workflow, but this is completely acceptable and workable. And what is nice is the control. You can move everything individually. That, guys, is the lesson and the takeaway from this exercise. Sometimes it is best when working and planning to place things in InDesign is to create individual canvases of individual art. Multiple piece layouts only really work if you're keeping them from touching, because you saw what happened with the green rectangle coming into the square of this oval. And it also will not allow you to blend, cross over, overlap, or do anything, because then you can't hide it. So ladies and gentlemen, that was a lesson on bringing Photoshop images into InDesign and how we place them on individual layers. Now still watch, individual layers. Now if you want, you can break those 3 shapes off, copy and paste them to individual layers. They're free-floating images, not touching, so I'm okay with them on the same. But guys, that's how you do it. Thank you very much. Have fun with your project.